Hello and welcome to Tolaris University. In this video, we'll show you a basic facility setup in XPressEntry. Now in this video, I assume that you have XPressEntry installed, which you see on the left of my screen here, and that you have your handheld installed and connected, which you see on the right hand of my screen. Now I have a facility set up on my screen. This is just a demo setup. Obviously, your facility would have their own map and doors that they have set up for your XPressEntry installation. Now, the very first thing to do is to set up your doors. So if you see here, I have quite a few doors that are in this system here. But you remember every door has a zone that it comes from and goes to. So we first of all have to set up all the zones. And I'm going to call the zone that is outside here off-site, and I'll call the zone within here on-site parking. So let's go into XPressEntry and create the zone. So we're going to add edit info, and we need to go into zones, and then let us add a new zone. So I'm going to call the first zone off-site. And remember that this is an outside zone. Hit save. And I'm going to call within the facility, I'm going to call it on-site parking. And this is also an outside zone. And we have quite a few other zones within the facility, and you can see here manufacturing, CNC, executive offices, and etc. All these zones are within the facility, and your system needs to account for the employees within this zone. So all the zones are going to be hazard zones. Let us create a few of these. So I'm going to start with manufacturing. Now just go ahead and create the rest of the zones. Now, as you can see, I've created all the zones. You have the SCIF, and this is the sensitive compartmented information facility, which is right here. And you have secure operations, which is right here, and etc. I've created all the zones. And remember to mark all these zones as hazard because you need to account for employees within the internal zones. And we have some special zones here, which are muster points. So all those zones that are marked with a red star are muster points. So let's create these zones and mark them as muster points. So I'll just create parking not west. And remember that this zone is outside and it's also a muster point. So I'll just go ahead and create the rest of the zones. As you can see, I've created all the zones for the muster points. But if you notice, some of these zones are not muster points, like the parking north and the parking south. You can see here parking south, I've set it as outside, but I didn't set it as a muster point. So it cannot be used as an assembly point in the system. And if you see parking east is a muster point, and so on and so forth. Parking north on the map is not a muster point, and so I've created it just as an outside zone, but it cannot be used as an assembly point. So now that I've created all the zones, the next thing to do is to create the doors. So let's go straight into the doors section here, and let's add a new door. So you see we have quite a few doors. I'm going to pick one that comes from outside of the facility, from outside into the on-site parking, and I'll take a few doors from here and some doors that go from within an office to another office. Let's take the vehicle entry west. It's called V1. Now this is going from off-site to on-site parking. So off-site is the start zone, and end zone is on-site parking. Hit save. If you have an access control, when you're creating a door, you can map this to the external entry reader, which is the reader on the access control. And this will send a transaction into that access control when you have a transaction. So let's create another door. This door is coming from the on-site parking into the manufacturing. So let's call it, door is called M2. Hit save. Now we have another door here that goes from the lobby into the executive office, and that is E1. Let's create that one. That is from one zone to another zone within the building. So it's going from the lobby to the executive offices. Let's see. So it's really about creating the doors based on what they are within your facility. You see, we have another door here that goes from the secure operations into the SCIF. Let's create that one. It's called Z1. Going from secure ops to the SCIF. Right, so let's hit save. So I'm just going to create the other doors in a few minutes. Okay, so now I've created all the doors. You can see E1, E2, L1, L2, and each of them are moving just as specified within the map on the right here. Now, the very next thing to do is to create the groups. Now, we have different applications of groups. You can create a group that has readers in it and really specifies which employees would have access to that reader, or you can create a group that has readers and zones. And you can also add holidays to your groups, so these people would have access on those specific days or time zones. So you can really add so many flavors to your groups. So we have a default group called All Access. Usually this group will have access to all the zones that are within the facility, and you can create specialized groups for different applications. So I'm going to partition my entire region here into an upper region and a lower region, and I'll just create two groups for the upper region and for the lower region. So the upper region will be the manufacturing, lobby, and executive offices, and the lower region is going to be the sales and marketing, engineering, secure ops, and the SCIF. So let's create a new group, call it upper region access. And I want to create and add the groups that this has its manufacturing, and I want to select CNC. I want to select, so to select multiple groups when you're adding them, you can just hold the control and select them. If you leave the control, it would only select one, but you can hold the control and select multiple. So CNC, lobby, executive offices. There you go. So we're just going to add all of this. And I want to say that this group will have access to handheld 1. Let's just give it access to all the readers. Okay. And I want to say that this this group will have access to this special holiday as well. Now, in terms of authentication, you would have to specify how you want to authenticate. I'm currently authenticating by zones, but if you want, you can authenticate by zones, readers, and time zones, and really it depends on how you want to implement your system. And I'll show you that in a bit. Let's just create the lower Star Labs access group. It's called lower Star Labs access group. So this group, I want to give access to the lowest side, which is the sales and marketing, and so let's separate the SCIF, give a specialized access to that one. So sales and marketing, and it's going to have engineering. So this is it. And you also want to give it access to all the readers, right? And hit save. Now, once you've given access to the groups, you can assign these groups to different users in any way that you want. And in your system, those users will have access to this zones, readers, and specialized time zones, depending on how you want to authenticate. So in order to enable the authentication methods, you go into settings, and it is reader validations. And as you see under the reader validations, you can select zones, you can select readers, you can select time zones. And this would specify the time, the period that people are able to access your facility. For this test, I'm just going to use only zones. Okay. All right. So you can see all your doors are created and specified and mapped out really neatly here. So the very next thing is for us to create the master site. So you see we have assembly points. So I want to actually divide this facility into two master sites, which are also called the upper side and the lower side of this facility. And I'll just partition the master sites to specify that. So let's go back into add edit info. Now let's go into the master sites. And now I want to create a few master sites. Let's create a new master site. Call it the upper building. And hit save. And now we want to assign the assembly points for that master site. And so we want to select parking east and parking northwest. And let us create another master site and call it the lower building. And we want to select parking southwest and parking west as the assembly points. Now, the very next thing you need to do for your master site is to specify the zones that it's monitoring. So because this is for the lower zone, we want to monitor all of these that we have specified as our lower region, which is from sales and marketing to engineering, secure ops, KIF. So all the people that are within these zones, we're expecting them to be found on the missing list within this master site. So let's select this KIF, secure ops, engineering, sales and marketing, and hit save. And for the upper building, we want to select the rest, which is the manufacturing, CNC. Let's select the lobby, executive offices, and I think that's about it. Hit save. Right. So that is pretty much it for the master site. So you have quite a few things you can do specifically with your master site. For instance, you can have each master site can have a different admin email where the master operation report will be sent into. So I can specify a different admin email for this and a different admin email for this one. This is gone through extensively in a different video, a video on master operations and advanced operations and mastering. You can look at the video to get all the info on mastering. So let us go back into our system and test it out and see how this works. Now I set up two handhelds. You see one in the middle here and one on the right. And the essence is for us to see how we can assign groups and also how we can view different people from different master sites and see the missing list on one master site and another master site partition within your system. So now everybody is without an access at this point. So let's grant access to each of these people, starting with Jake. I want to give Jake access to the upper side. So let's go back to Jake and search for, so Jake is here. Let's go to the upper side, and to add, you need to add user to group here by clicking this button, and then you need to hit save. We're expecting Jake to have access now to the upper side, which he does. And the next person, let's try Abdul. So this handheld is set to the lower side. So let's go and check Abdul. And let's add Abdul to the lower side. Hit save. We're expecting Abdul to have access to the lower side. So Abdul is here, and you see he has access to the lower side. Now, the final thing you can do is to assign a user directly to a zone. If you notice when I was creating the groups, I didn't assign the skiff zone to any of the groups. So you can assign any zone directly to a user, especially if this zone is not assigned to many users, just as this specialized area that we are dealing with. So let's try for this last person. That is Ryan. And let's search for Ryan and see if we can assign him directly. And we want to assign Ryan, give him an additional access to just to the skiff. And let's switch this reader. So let's select Z1 and see if Ryan has access to that door. Yes. But no one else has access to the door because it's specialized just for Ryan. Now we have people in different zones at different muster sites. So let's see how it works when we have a muster operation from different muster sites. So the first thing we want to do is to switch our handhelds into the muster mode. So let's switch the mode into the muster mode. So the thing we want to do on this handheld now is to switch the sites. I want to set the muster site to, in this case, I want to set it to the upper building. And as you can see, Jake is in the upper building. And you can see Jake is in manufacturing, which is part of the upper building, is missing. But if you notice, Ryan and Abdul, who are in the lower building, are not in this missing list. So let us switch the other handheld to, let's switch it to muster mode. And let us select the site and set the muster site to the lower building. So as you can see on the left, you can see that on this muster side, you can see the remaining two people on that side, and you can see Jake on the other side. So this is how it works in terms of the mustering and setting the zones. Now this brings an end to this video. We have a detailed video about emergency mustering and all the other features that we have touched in this video. Please feel free to reach out to us at helpdesk@Telarus.com for any technical queries or sales@Telarus.com for any product inquiries. Thank you.